So I took the drone out today and I didn't set the audio up, but I figured it would be some cool scenery and I could talk about King of the Motos on the Stark Varg, that is. So, first of all, this is a little loop I made before going to King of the Motos on this bike. Each lap's a mile. I did that so that way if I run 10 laps, I know I did 10 miles. And it was all with the idea to see how the battery would hold up. So when I got out there, I wouldn't just be too dumbfounded. But what I didn't really think about is the battery dying faster when it's hot. If I put a quick charge on the battery, it might not last as long. And for the prologue, it was 11 miles. I went out and I figured I'd be right around 50%. Came back, I was right at that. I was at 48. So I pulled over in the pits. I charged up to 53%. And again, this is my first race on this bike, so I had no idea. But I did know the lap was 11.3 miles, so it's a little bit longer. But I figured 53 would be sufficient. However, I died at checkpoint 4 of 5, and I actually died short of 4. So luckily, a buddy passed me, tossed me his phone. I was able to call other friends back in the pits, and they brought my truck out, charged the bike up to 4%, went back on the course, died still short of checkpoint 4, so I had to physically push the bike across the line before I timed out. So Saturday, I lost an hour and a half, if not 2 hours, just to sitting around trying to figure out what to do with the dead bike. But I was thankful, had a blast, and it was a really fun course. On Sunday for the main race, we started out with an 8-mile lap first, and I came back to pits. I had 60%, but after what happened on Saturday, the day before, my game plan was just charge frequent and charge often. So hit the pits, I charged up to probably 75%, went back out, hit the second lap, which is 9 miles. I came back after the second lap with 22% left in the bike. Again, just confirming that when the battery's hot, or the bike's hot in general, it's going to die faster. So at pit, I charged up to 70%, and I went back out to lap 3. I hit checkpoint 2 around 35%. Decided to push to checkpoint 3, but knowing what was after checkpoint 3, I didn't want to get stuck in a bad spot. So I just opted to call it there, lap 3, checkpoint 3, and just rode around the track and got back to the pits with some battery in my bike. So yeah, it was a bummer because on Sunday, I'd say I get basically 1% somewhere between 1 and 2 minutes. So if I go 10%, I'd say it's about 15-minute charging. So if I charged after lap 1 and after lap 2 for those big numbers, I would say another hour and a half gone, because even just from 22 to 70 probably took about 50 minutes. But yeah, overall super good course and had a good time being out there on this bike. It's the only bike I want to ride. I still have my 300. I still have my 450. I wanted to try something new and see how it did in an actual race, and realistically, the numbers lined up to exactly where I expected. However, I just didn't think about the battery getting hot and really draining that much more significantly once it is hot. So live and learn, things to keep in mind. What I broke on the bike was very minimal. I noticed one of the plastics on the back underneath, like by the subframe, pulled over the head of the screw. I was able to just back that screw out and run it back in, and the plastics are fine. Everything clipped back in place. I do like these plastics because they are one piece. So in the past with the gas or the KTM, when I pick them up, sometimes the number plates will pop out of the fenders or whatever. This bike doesn't have that issue, which is great. Also, that being said, if you have to replace the plastics, you got to replace a big piece, but I think it's like $130 for the full fairing. The other thing was the front sprocket cover. I had the stock cast one on. I found a company, Race Torques. They make some really good stuff for these bikes already. I just didn't order that piece in time to get it before the race. I wouldn't have noticed I broke it until I was just checking over the bike and I saw that there was a chunk missing, so it didn't affect me at all. But the front sprocket cover did break. And then there's a pretty good crack in the skid plate, the stock skid plate I still have on this bike. But I could have done that either in practice before the race or in prologue. I don't really know, but I'll chalk the cracked skid plate and the broke front sprocket cover up to King of the Motos. At the race, I was only racing at 34 horsepower, and I had about 65 engine regen. But that engine regen's so aggressive. I took my 450 out the other day, and then after getting on the bike for this video, for this day, I turned my engine regen down to 55. But I did take the horsepower up to, I want to say like 42 or something. Of course, I want the high engine regen, but going down a hill like this or something, it just, you're fighting against the bike, trying to push it forward. It's nice just to kind of coast and roll over and stay high on the rocks. It really fatigued my arms. I noticed that a lot. But I think this bike is way more manageable and easy to ride than a lot of other bikes. I put it somewhere between the 300 and the 450. It hits and pulls like a 450. The torque's there, but it's manageable and movable like the 300. It's very nimble. It's really slim, and it's definitely my favorite like chassis feel, and it just works well for me. Of course, everybody's going to be personal and have their own opinions, but I'm having a blast, and I love the bike. I'd get rid of the other ones if the range was a little better, but clearly it's not there yet, so I still got my other bikes. This bike, suspension's done, N2 Dirt. I got it with the MX suspension because I bought it from a dealer, and it was just a leftover, and the new bikes are coming out, so this one's pretty cheap. I do have that rear brake up there, so in a spot like this, it's pretty nice. You can modulate your wheel spin. Helps with traction and everything, so it's just awesome not having to use anything on your pegs other than just standing on your pegs, like no shifter, no foot brake. That's awesome. I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions or specific stuff, feel free to ask. I'll always try my best to answer. I didn't have any information going into getting this bike, so I'm hoping I can be the guy that figures some stuff out for other people. I know that EX is going to be nice, and I think a lot of guys are going to get it. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep posting and having fun. It's still my favorite bike. Thanks for watching.